sort of explain through images things that you can't quite say in words.
Yep.
Um, and that's one of the things that one of the magic elements of poetry, I think.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's
And if
newsman,
you're just
Logan
joining
Crawford.
investigators, they now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into a profound and deeply human collection of poetry from acclaimed American poet Lou Lipsitz, Seeking the Hook, new and selected poems. In the book, Lou gathers work from his earlier books, Cold Water and Reflections on Samson, along with 85 pages of new material that explores the emotional terrain of masculinity, rage, grief, and healing. These poems confront the truths we avoid, the wounds we carry, and the transformative search for insight, what Robert Bly calls the hook of truth. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at City of Books for helping us put him on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Lou, thank you so much for joining us here today.
My pleasure. Look
Pleasure
forward.
to have you on the show. Wonderful work on this book. The new poems that you've published focus heavily on the male emotional experience.
Mhm.
Tell us why it was important for you to explore that terrain.
Well, it was important and it remains important. And I think I was very influenced by Robert Bly and the early work of the so-called movement, men's movement,
Mhm.
greater awareness, which I valued greatly in helping us, we men, to understand ourselves. Women were doing this. At the time this book was being written, there was a lot of activity among women. Consciousness raising is one of the things it was called. And in a way, that's what I was doing too, or I and others were doing, raising our consciousness really about ourselves, about who really are we. There are a lot of stereotypes about masculinity, and I wanted to examine them
Yep.
and talk more about actual. It's not an essay. I'm not
Right.
trying, just trying to actually get at the truth exactly, but get at the sort of through poetry to get at the range of feelings and issues that come up for men.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah,
where
and poetry is a perfect way to do it. It's not preachy, it's not lecturing, it's just an exploration of feelings. And I think
yeah.
that's wonderful. Many of the poems address grief and loss. Talk
Mhm.
to us about the role that poetry plays in carrying or transforming these emotions.
Yeah, I wish I had some definitive things to say, but I really don't.
Mhm.
I'm still just myself. This book was published some time ago, and in the time since then, I've learned a lot more about grief. I've experienced a level of sorrow, of loss that I had not really known about before.
Mm.
So, life goes on, and sometimes you learn things that you had no way of grasping earlier.
Yeah,
So that's in a way, that's happened to me. I'm writing that work now,
yeah.
in new poetry. And I mean, I had a very unhappy love affair, heartbreaking love affair. I had a divorce in which I managed poorly.
Mm.
I did not, I truly did not know what I was doing. I
Mhm.
didn't have any guidance. I didn't understand a
Mhm.
lot of what my children were going. I have two children. What my children were going through, really had a poor understanding of that,
Mm.
and try to kind of reach for an understanding through the poetry.
Yeah.
But I really don't. I mean, I got a certain distance, I'd
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
So all of those things I try to say in some form or other in the poems in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Loss is a very, very painful aspect of life, of course, and you really don't realize its impact until you're there. You
Mhm.
don't realize the loss of a loved one, figuratively or literally, until you're in that situation, and it can be obviously quite heartbreaking. Robert Bly's description of your work is powerful. When you hear the metaphor of a large fish looking for the hook of truth, what does that mean to you?
Well, that was Bly's. Bly, Bly saw my work that way, and I'm flattered. I was very that was very appealing. Um, I think I think he he understood this as a hook of truth that I could find, and in some ways he led me down that path. I don't want to say road because we're talking about water here, down that stream toward truth. Um, in being yeah, in being a kind of leading the way for men to go more deeply into themselves. There are a lot of stereotypes, of male emotion and what guys are or supposed to be. And we had a break in that in this period when I was writing these poems, where guys were allowed to be or encouraged even to be more open to their feelings and more. I guess the word that usually comes to me about this is vulnerable. Uh, that we could say we needed help. We could say we are in pain and not feel ashamed that we're admitting this. That we are we're not protected against pain. We don't want to be. We want to be able to experience more of what is really there to experience in ourselves and our friends.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. It's sort of like, a wave. If you're going to have the great joys, you're going to have the deep pain as all as well. You have to feel things in general in order to feel things pleasant or painful.
yes,
Brooklyn, of course, we have a picture of it behind me, at least the Brooklyn Bridge,
yeah.
is a beautiful place. It's like a city unto itself, a city within New York City. You have
Mhm.
Brooklyn roots.
I
Talk
do.
to us about how your Brooklyn roots and your family stories shape the emotional landscape of your writing.
Well, uh, I felt um a very strong connection with Brooklyn, and this uh, this came about really because I shared this experience with a lot of other, say, boys growing up at the same time I was, and we, as now people are connected to their college teams and and like here in Chapel Hill, where there's a you know uh, deep loyalty to the college and to the sports teams and so on. We had that in Brooklyn. We had the Dodgers. At that time, they were in Brooklyn, even though they're now in LA, of course. And I wrote a kind of a funny poem about this. About it's in another book. It's in a more recent book called, and the poem is called um, uh, something like why baseball is no longer necessary, something like that. And of course, that relates to the Dodgers moving from Brooklyn to LA and the breaking of that kind of bond that so many of us had. Um, the other part of it is that the Brooklyn I lived in was a Brooklyn um, of immigrants, really. My my grandmother was an immigrant from Hungary. My father's family, not my father, but his family, they were immigrants from Ukraine, from Kiev, actually, and which, I knew nothing about growing up because the emphasis was um, was on being as American as you could. Not having an accent, for example, trying not to have an accent, not sound like you came from Europe.
Yeah.
And it may be hard now to grasp that, but we're much more multicultural now. So, anyway, I think um maybe at the core of it, the feeling of growing up in Brooklyn, there was a certain deep kind of loyalty and kind of love for each other, I'd say,
Yeah.
among me and my friends.
Yeah.
And that's lasted. I mean, I've heard from my Brooklyn comrades even recently, and we're all old men now, it's but it has lasted a long while.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know friends who grew up in Bay Ridge and they've moved to upstate New York or wherever, and
Yeah.
they pine to get back to Brooklyn. I don't know if the Brooklyn that they grew up in exists anymore. I don't know if the towns any of us grew up in exist anymore. I think they are just painted with nostalgia and memories and times gone by. But Brooklyn is the kind of place that sticks in your heart for sure. I love it. It's one of my favorite places in the
Oh, well,
world.
that's nice to hear.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I go to Coney Island once a year, believe it or not. Get
I
some Nathans, ride the Cyclone, walk on the boardwalk, and just soak in that environment without a doubt. Your book asks how we deal with wounds we've inflicted on others. Talk to us about that and how poetry helps navigate that kind of accountability.
hmm I think this applies most directly for me to my children, who, especially my son, who was very upset, hurt, let's say, since he was a very young kid, and by the divorce that occurred. He was only 6, um, and I was, really abysmally ignorant about. I mean, now I could go online and ask ChatGPT, look, can you tell me something about the way I should go about having a divorce? How will it affect a 6-year-old boy and what, and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just sort of like some basic info. There wasn't any such thing.
Mm.
I was really in the dark, I would say. What should I do about the troubled marriage I have? What is a good way to handle that marriage? Well, I really didn't know.
Yeah.
And uh, lots of people were going through these very painstaking confusions, I'd say. And in the process, we were doing a lot of damage. I mean, we're doing good things too, and we were trying. I would say credit for trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but we're really pretty, yeah, now that I look back and I can see, I realize, gee, I just needed someone to give me some good advice at the time. Now, where's my father in this picture? Why couldn't he have given me advice? Really, he couldn't have because he was not, um, he he conducted his life in a kind of superficial way, and he was very absorbed in sports, very oh, he'd be crazily happy now, crazy happy with, hockey, tennis, football, basketball,
Yeah.
soccer, this all in the same day. And
Yeah.
he was distracted that way. Uh,
Yeah.
it's difficult looking back.
Mm.
I have a lot of grief regarding what I'd say is a confusions I caused my son
Yeah.
and a lack of understanding where he was at. So
Yeah.
that's certainly a serious grief. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say I inflicted that, but I did really. I did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there's no
The
one else to.
collateral damage more than affliction, that's the thing. And divorces, I don't think parents intend to hurt their children. I
No.
think it's just a consequence of it.
Yeah.
and being relatively young at the time when going through it, you don't know the right way to play it. It's tough, tough.
Yeah.
When you were speaking before, Frank Sinatra's got some powerful lines from a song. He says, knowing how to play it if the chance to play it over ever came. But then
Yeah.
again, a Monday morning quarterback never lost a game.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
see.
yeah,
That's good. Thanks for that. Collateral damage. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a divorced dad also. I tried to do the best by my children when going through it. Did you make mistakes along the way? Sure. Did you shield them from acrimony when they should have been? Maybe not.
Mhm.
Was there an emotional immaturity? Probably. That's
All
just
true.
being a human being. We're all guilty. We're all guilty of being human. Your
Yeah.
book is beautiful, Lou. What do you hope, before we leave you today, what do you hope readers take from it after they turn that last page?
I think the thing I hope for most is that the readers enjoy the poems. I think there's a lot of humor in the book.
Hmm.
There's a lot of kind of spontaneous, um, bewildered uh, efforts to figure things out that are, I hope, will appeal to people and feel enjoyable as well as serious.
Yeah.
And the book is really a mix, and that's just reflects who I am. And I would just like people to, I mean, there's a lot of poetry out there, and a lot of it's very, very interesting. And the poetry, when I was a kid growing up, and I first read some poems, uh, I I had no interest in them. They seemed very dull,
Yeah.
and they didn't speak to me at all. So I think poetry is a lot more alive now.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it and diverse. But I just ask people to think about what they are really feeling themselves, to be open to their own feelings, and to be compassionate and kind to themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and if they feel like writing about it, feel like they have some images. I mean, one of the things in the book I value a lot is the images, specific images that pop up here and there,
Mhm.
trying to sort of explain through images things that you can't quite say in words.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of the things that one of the magic elements of poetry, I think, the images that can you can't quite explain what they convey.
Right.
They're yeah, it's puzzling how deep an image can go,
Yeah.
how far it can reach into you, but it's very difficult to explain it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sometimes you need a poem to explain it.
that's it.
The hardest things in life can be explained in either song or poems, and I guess the two are kind of intertwined in many,
Yeah.
many ways. Lou, if you would, do you have a poem there you might be able to share with us that kind of captures a little bit of the feeling of your book?
Yeah, well, here's a poem it's just called The Grief.
Mhm.
And um, it has quite a number of different images um, that that reflect sort of troubled a troubled consciousness, awareness, without exactly being able to spell out any real analysis of grief. But anyway, it's suggestive, let's say. So I'll read it here. The grief.
Sure.
The grief spreads like red wine knocked over on the tablecloth by the drunk father. It's a high school girl's hair that gets in my mouth, the girl who scorned me 20 years ago. And I get mad and want to poke somebody, and I drive crazy on the highway and yell at various people unknown to me. The grief spreads into my sleep. It climbs down the ladder from the roof and slips in the window and lies down beside me with its twig fingers. That's my favorite stanza of the poem. It continues like the second day of rain and the third day, and the confusion about buying something trivial, and the memory, I can't remember exactly, that won't leave me alone. I'm down on my knees with a rag for some reason, trying to wipe up puddles and laughing way inside that at least I've now forgotten what that girl's hair tastes like. Now's the moment, though, when I want to buy time, but they won't take my money.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So much in that poem. I mean, I like the fact that you talk about rain on the second and third day. I love the image of the red wine spreading out on a tablecloth because you
Yeah.
never know how much wine is in that glass until you spill it. And then it seems like it's an ocean. And that's how grief is. It washes over you when you least expect it. It impacts areas of our life and our emotions that make us act out in rage sometimes, like
Yeah,
screaming in the automobile.
yeah, yeah.
I really think you've done a wonderful, wonderful job of capturing grief in a way that isn't moribund either. I think it's,
No, it's not.
yeah,
No, no,
yeah,
it's that's a very spontaneous poem. I think when I sat down to write that day, I really didn't know what I was going to say about grief. I'd been
yeah.
experiencing a lot of grief, but I was having trouble putting it into words and making it into a poem. And so that was a start. There are several poems about grief in the book, very directly about grief, and a range of feelings, that come up in those poems.
Absolutely. Well, you captured it in that one, and it was a wonderful example of the beautiful poetry that you have in this book. Lou, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, Logan, thank you. Appreciate
I
it.
I
Really.
appreciate your time, your insight, and your wisdom. It is such a wonderful book, folks. It is highly recommended. The name of the book is Seeking the Hook, New and Selected Poems by Lou Lipsitz. It's an honest, unflinching exploration of the emotional depths that define the human experience. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.